Universal's Epic Universe. Does this park even need an introduction? It's the newest addition to the Universal Orlando Resort, and it's probably the most anticipated theme park project in the last, 6 years? Universal, and in higher regards Comcast, has never done a larger single investment that wasn't an acquisition. This park is going to cost a whopping $2 to $4 billion. And it definitely shows. 5 epic lands, a multitude of new hotels, and theming that honestly puts Disney to shame. And don't get me wrong, I love Disney World, most of the time, but I would be lying if I said that Disney, they can't really compete. Sure, they've had a few good lands in the last 10 years. The biggest one, in my opinion, would be Pandora: The World of Avatar. That's probably one of my top 3 theme park lands. Sure, Star Wars Land, it's good, but I would much rather ride a Banshee and see the floating mountains than admire the Millennium Falcon. But now that we can see what Epic Universe is doing with their themed lands, yeah, I'd probably take 3 of those over Pandora or Star Wars Land. And those would be Super Nintendo World, the Dark Universe, and the 3rd Harry Potter land. I understand that Celestial Park and How to Train Your Dragon look phenomenal. However, I'm not as excited for those lands compared to the other ones. How to Train Your Dragon, it's more geared towards kids, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not going to appeal to my demographic in particular, because I haven't watched the films, I have no nostalgia for it, and the rides that are featured in the land, they're on the tamer side. And if we look at Celestial Park, it's not bad in any way, however it does exist as more as a hub to all the other universes, as opposed to its own distinct universe, if that makes any sense. But it doesn't really matter, it's got a fun roller coaster, so who really cares? But if I turn my attention back to the 3 distinct lands that's gonna make Epic Universe, I want to talk about my most anticipated land, which, it's a hard pick. Between Dark, Nintendo, and Harry Potter, they are going to be, each in their own way, the crown jewel of the park. But if I had to go with only one of them, it would be the Dark Universe. Even though I am beyond stoked for Nintendo and Harry Potter, I can't deny the fact that I already know what Universal can do with these properties. Some of you may already know, Nintendo World has already been a thing for about 3 years, since 2 lands already exist in Japan and Hollywood, and Harry Potter, that's been a thing since 2010 when they built Hogsmeade, then again in 2014 when they built Diagon Alley, and again in 2019 when they built Hagrid's. The point is, Harry Potter has also been around for a long time, so even though this may be a new take on the Harry Potter franchise, it's still more of the same. That's not a bad thing. It just means I know what to expect. Dark Universe, we haven't really seen this kind of property from Universal. Now, of course, Halloween Horror Nights has always been a thing, but what I'm talking about is a permanent concrete attraction. Something that's open all year round, not seasonal, and something that's not just an influx of scare mazes that change every year, but is rather a bona fide, state-of-the-art attraction that can please riders again and again, year over year. Now, I can understand there's some hesitation against Dark Universe. Not everyone likes horror movies, especially classic horror. These are movies that were produced between the years 1930 and 1955. Personally, I have not watched all of them. I've never seen Creature from the Black Lagoon or The Wolfman. The only 2 I have seen is The Invisible Man and the original Frankenstein. And truth be told, I like Young Frankenstein a lot more.
Dr. Frankenstein.
You must be Igor.
No, it's pronounced Igor.
But they told me it was Igor.
Well, they were wrong then, weren't they?
But despite the Dark Universe being based on classic horror compared to modern horror, I have to ask the question, is there a market for this? Is there a market for a horror-themed land all year round as opposed to just the peak season during Halloween? Because horror itself, it's a very niche genre. Not a lot of people like being scared watching a film. So would this translate well to an entire theme park land? Honestly, I think so. I think this would be probably the most popular land. Even though I would say the majority of people don't like watching a scary movie, I think there's more than enough people that would be willing to be scared at a theme park. Because theme parks in general, they're made to test the limits of fear. The whole concept of a roller coaster or dark ride, they're supposed to be terrifying when you're traveling up a chain lift, plunging down the drop, and then flipping through a corkscrew. That's what makes it fun, getting over your fear. And it's not like Universal's done no horror-themed rides in the past. The Mummy's probably one of their most popular attractions at their main Universal park. And that ride definitely has a lot of horror elements. The entire ride, it's dark, it's ominous. The whole room can light up on fire before you blast down a drop. I can imagine that if you're young, that's probably gonna scare you. Not to mention their bigger attractions like Velocicoaster. That's not meant to be tamed by any means. As you go through the queue, it's trying to make you scared before the experience. You're witnessing the launch of the train as the raptors chase it. Then you see two raptor animatronics shaking in their cage, trying to escape. And before you hop on the train, the pre-show is telling you to go home, get out of here, this ain't gonna end well, making you second guess your choice of going on the ride. And then the actual coaster, it's aggressive as hell. It's supposed to be intimidating, draining you physically and mentally. That's why fear or horror, it will be a success at Epic Universe. And even if you still want to make the argument that the classic monsters, they're not relevant enough for today's audiences, I still full-heartedly disagree with that. Just because something's not relevant enough doesn't mean it's gonna fail. Look at Tron at the Magic Kingdom. How many of you actually feel nostalgia for the Tron movies? Hell, even like the Tron movies. Probably not a lot of you. But even if the movies or even the games don't have much cultural relevance today, the execution for the ride, it's still fantastic. Besides the duration of Tron, I don't have many complaints with the ride. The theming's amazing, the ride experience is fun, and I've never heard anyone say they don't like the ride. And I can make the same argument with other rides like Tower of Terror, how it's not about the IP, it's the execution. Since Tower of Terror, that ride opened in 1994, and the Twilight Zone series ended over 30 years prior. So would the show still be relevant a few decades later? Probably not. But Disney, they still built the ride anyway. And today, it's one of the most recognizable rides of the property, and one of the best dark rides of all time. And heck, I would make the argument that the ride is the reason why the show is still relevant today. But I digress. If we get back on topic to Dark Universe, as you can see, it doesn't matter if people don't care about the classic monsters. As long as the execution for the land is successful, it will make people care about the movies this land is based on. And by just looking at the flyover of the area, it's definitely gonna do that. The gothic feel and dark, sinister tone of the movies is eloquently blended in this land. Darkmoor has this small village feel that puts you in the setting of films like Frankenstein, especially with the kinetic energy of stuff like the burning windmill. That's something they didn't have to do, but they're going the extra mile and making you feel immersed in the movie. I think parks, they underestimate the kinetic feel of a land. It's great when you have moving elements and unexpected effects rather than just static buildings that sure may look great, but kind of just blend in the background instead of captivating your attention. But other than just the aesthetics of the land, they got two phenomenal looking attractions. One of them being the Curse of the Werewolf, which looks like a ride that's between Slinky Dog Dash and Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, it's a spinning coaster that's not too intense and is mainly geared towards families, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Not every attraction in the land needs to be geared towards the intense thrill seeker, but thankfully, we still get that with their second attraction, Monsters Unchained. A ride where we have an idea what it's going to be like, but there's still some surprises that are pretty unknown. For instance, we do know this ride will utilize the Kuka arm technology that we've seen on rides like Forbidden Journey. However, it's been rumored there's going to be some enhancements to the ride system, such as some roller coaster elements to the Kuka arm. Instead of the arm just being on a 360 gimbal, the actual base will be connected to a track, giving a roller coaster feel with drops and maneuvers as opposed to just being pivoted up and down like a ragdoll. This would be a cool enhancement to technology we've already seen, but remember, it's just speculation. Something we do know about the attraction, however, is the use of practical effects and animatronics. Universal, in their promotional video, they really emphasize the use of animatronics and large set pieces to bring all these monsters to life. And you know what? That's a very reassuring statement for the ride. Because I believe that the best way to bring this ride to life is the use of practical effects. Horror is a genre that is known for their practicality. Think of movies like Hellraiser, Saw, or The Thing, where they emphasize the gore and body morphing with real-life dummies and special effects, with little use of CGI or computer After Effects. My main hope is at Universal they stay true to the formula of practicality for horror, as a way to make this ride feel more real than it actually is. But with that being said, that is the Dark Universe, a land that I am really excited for, and I assume most of you are as well. But besides Dark Universe being an immersive theme park experience, I do think that one day the Dark Universe will be expanded upon. Remember, Universal, they had a focal point that this is more PG to PG-13. So they're trying to go for an older audience. Which, granted, that's nothing new for Universal. Appealing to older demographics is what differentiates them from their competitors like Disney, who are more for the common family, having rides that are not as extreme, per se, rather making sure that every member of the family can be included in the ride experience, as opposed to a select few who are taller or old enough. Yes, I know Disney, they have a few rides that are more intense, like Rock and Roller Coaster or Guardians of the Galaxy. However, they're not on the same caliber as Universal. Universal is the place you go to for more extreme thrills. But now that they're building a land that teeters on family-friendly and more mature, you can definitely see what kind of market Universal is targeting. A market where you don't just go to for your childhood, but into your teens and 20s. Even though, yes, Disney technically is for all ages, you can't deny the fact that its main market is children. Now, we have started to see the company stray away from that image by investing in more high-class thrill rides. Once again, Guardians, Tron, great examples. But no matter what, it's still not going to be at the same level as Universal. Because Universal, they're not confined to a standard of a strictly younger crowd. They can branch out more and build rides that are catered towards older audiences. And I hope that Dark Universe, it will continue to perpetuate that. Convince Universal to continue embracing more ambitious lands that's beyond what you expect at a theme park, and hopefully influence their competitors to do the same. But will this actually happen? Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Good Lord. I ain't got nobody, and nobody cares for me.